Well, thank you certainly to the trustees, the faculty, the students of Rensselaer, and in particular to President Jackson for the opportunity to join the RPI graduates and their family and friends on this day of transition to new adventures and opportunities. I also thank President Jackson for many years of her service to the public good, including her 18 years as president of Rensselaer, and for her many years of friendship and collaboration. I emphasize that I've said in many years twice already, in case she thinks that she's going to deny that we are the same vintage, at least to within 3%. But I have served with and for Shirley, most recently in the Obama administration. With her, during the first Obama term, we served on the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, collaborating on an influential report to accelerate energy technology innovation through integrated energy policy. Then for her, I would argue, in the second Obama term, when she served on my Secretary of Energy Advisory Board, and of course I had to take their advice. Now, I know that Shirley did that mainly to watch over me to make sure I faithfully implemented the report we did in the first term on energy policy, and I think we did so. She likes follow through, but I would say that in addition, President Jackson co-led my advisory committee's important effort to shape the performance of high-performance computing. This was a terrific report that emphasized how, as we look forward, computational intensity needs to be complemented by really big data analytics, by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, this may sound nerdy to many of you, and I assure you that your president proudly fits that bill. But it's important, too, that, in fact, the Department of Energy, using all those elements that President Jackson put forward, for example, might surprise you, is applying this to a new way of addressing cancer by being able to look at amazingly large clinical, environmental, genomic databases to actually apply this to individual cures. Now, I heard about some of the very similar path-breaking research going on here at Rensselaer just yesterday, just a snippet of what is an incredibly broad and deep program in energy-related technologies and other elements. But now, the reason I went through that is the reference to artificial intelligence. It's really a launch for some of the remarks I offer you today, because AI, as you all know, is a prime example, along with related technologies like autonomous vehicles on land, in the air, underwater, of technologies that are coming at us at dizzying speed, almost always much faster than predicted, as recently, perhaps as yesterday. We live in a time of accelerating clock speed that challenges us as individuals and challenges our social and governing institutions to adapt, to change, and to manage change. My basic message, and it's already been said in many ways in this ceremony, is that schools like the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and my home institution, MIT, provide our graduates with the skill set to perform all of these functions, including managing change, if they also continuously stick to the underlying innovation and entrepreneurship framework that is inherent in our core business model of technically grounded excellence. I've already confessed to age, and I'll say that in my own 4-decade career, it's really been like 4 different careers of different decades. One as a professor, fully engaged with students, teaching, research, and faculty politics of an intensity generally inversely proportional to the stakes. a great training ground for future activity. One, building a major university energy program, advancing both technology and policy and engaging about 30% of MIT's faculty, probably a comparable number to those here at Rensselaer, involved one way or another in the energy efforts. One, leading and expanding a significant government-owned experimental research laboratory. One in government, including my recent service as Energy Secretary. And now I'm launching a fifth career, including leading nonprofit organizations in the private sector. Now, my point in recounting this personal history in the life of a scientist is to fulfill my responsibility as a commencement speaker, to give advice to the graduates. That advice is, in fact, to anticipate career change, to welcome it, to manage it to your and to society's benefit. And as already stated, sometimes it will take courage to change and family support too, but follow your interests when opportunity knocks. Because if not, you'll spend your later time just looking backwards rather than looking forward. And that must not be very pleasant, although I've made a point of not getting firsthand experience in that particular way. I give this advice knowing that the half-life of retention of commencement speech advice is maybe a month. So that's about 10 to the minus 4 after a year, 10 to the minus 15 after 4 years. And I can assure you that my own experience 50 years after my commencement advice does not contradict these numbers. But again, nevertheless, I'll relay a second bit of advice. It's advice that was actually offered this year by my friend and colleague, Bill Gates, to graduates. He was talking about which areas he would recommend focusing one's career. He mentioned a few. The first one he mentioned was, in fact, energy. He said this, and obviously I'm somewhat not totally objective, and I agree with him, but he said this because climate change is one of the most urgent global challenges, and the principal solution is accelerating the transition to a low-carbon energy economy. He also means, in making that statement, that major innovation breakthroughs will be needed to get where we must be, let's say by mid-century, which is barely more than a generation away. Meeting the goals put forward by the United States in Paris a year and a half ago, which is roughly a 27% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2025, merely 8 years away, is challenging. We're making good progress. We're about 14% of the way there. We need to pick up the pace a bit. But frankly, the goals that we and others put forward in Paris are only a first step. We need to go way beyond those goals, certainly in the advanced economies by mid-century. We're talking about deep decarbonization, 80%, 90% reductions. And that is something that calls for equally deep innovation. Here, I'll go beyond Bill's statement to say, make it clear that this innovation is clearly needed in developing brand new science and technology, but it's equally needed as policy innovation, as business model innovation. There are many, many forms of innovation that will have to come together for us to be successful. I want to emphasize that a deep appreciation of technology realities, the kind of underpinning that you get here at Rensselaer, no matter what your major is essential for all of these dimensions of innovation. And again, you, the graduates, are especially well suited to contribute in all of these dimensions, especially in teams with those from other different backgrounds. I know there may be some concern in thinking about this as a direction as you head into the as Roger said, the real world, especially because I acknowledge that today in the United States, there's a lot of uncertainty about what policies we will pursue in this domain as a new administration develops its positions and programs. But let me say unequivocally that there is no status quo ante after the Paris Agreement. There's no going back. The world is going to a low-carbon energy future. The issue is how much, when, and how, not if. This is a long-term deal, and that's the way you should think about it. In the United States, various indicators are there. For example, business has spoken overwhelmingly that it is and will allocate capital on the basis of a low-carbon future. Otherwise, you would be putting your capital at great risk. In fact, I remind you that even the major international oil companies have been using a carbon price in their internal capital decisions for over a decade. In the United States, the states have been leaders. For example, renewable electricity requirements today cover 70% of the US population, and another 10% if you talk about so-called voluntary standards. So that leadership will continue and probably, in fact, intensify. The Congress, the much maligned Congress, if you look at what they did in the budget a few weeks ago, it showed a strong commitment, a strong bipartisan commitment to the innovation agenda at the heart of climate solutions. So there may be some bumps in the road as we gather momentum, but the direction is clear, and other countries, including China, have made it very clear their intention to stay the course in terms of low carbon and in terms of developing the innovation agenda that will allow them to succeed in accessing a global multi-trillion-dollar developing clean energy market. It was already mentioned that many countries have now committed to doubling down on innovation, and they cover about 85% of the global investments. It would be a sad irony if the United States took the leadership in stimulating greatly enhanced innovation and then chose not to participate and, frankly, weaken its own position in terms of that future economic opportunity. So, in concluding, this is a great opportunity for Rensselaer, for its faculty, its staff, its students, and of course for the graduates. Yesterday, I got a real flavor of the commitment to pursue this opportunity with terrific faculty and student discussions. But let me, again in ending, return to the earlier statement that RPI and MIT graduates are among those best positioned to thrive in this high clock speed, technology-shaped world. Not everyone in our society, of course, has that advantage of being an RPI graduate, or a college graduate, or a skilled professional with essential capabilities for an AI world of the future. The clock speed can be incomprehensible and debilitating for those without the tool set and the capacity for rapid adaptation to new opportunity that you all possess. So I leave you with the thought that we really cannot succeed collectively, and I believe individually, until we figure out how to bring more of our fellow citizens along in this changing world with respect and with opportunity for meaningful contributions to the public good in a new world of work. So as you use the incredible toolbox that our RPI prepared you with, remember your community, defined as you like, as an essential part of your own success and gift to the coming generations. This might be a bigger challenge than proceeding in your career trajectory. Congratulations and best wishes.